Misha, welcome. It's really nice to meet you in person here in this exhibition, Contested Landscape, which is part of the Bienal de Actuele Fotografie that I've curated, and I invited you to show this project, Secreto Sarayaku. And we have been talking about it on the phone, on Zoom calls, of course, and I have seen the book, but it's actually the first time that I see it exhibited. Mm-hmm. Although I've seen installation shots from a wonderful show you did in Ecuador, in your home country. And during this next talk, I would like to know a bit more, of course, about the project and how you have presented it. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, and feel free to answer them the way you like. Okay. Maybe I'm always curious, like artists as you know, what was this first moment that you thought, I have to go to this place, and then also describe this place where you went? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the first time I heard the word Sarayaku was in the news in Ecuador. So it was in 2012 when they won a case, a lawsuit against the state of Ecuador at the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. And it was because the state entered in their territory with the military in order to explore for oil. And mm-hmm. they did so without the consent or without informing the people that live in this territory, mm-hmm. in this case Sarayaku. And so in the Ecuadorian constitution, there is one part that the people that live in one territory, they have to be informed and give consent to any extraction of natural resources. And this was not the case. So this case was like 10 years, so it lasted from 2002 until 2012, and in 2012 they won, and it was the first time that an indigenous population won such a big case in Latin America. Mm-hmm. So it was quite big in the country. So then I was like really interested in getting to know them better. Mm-hmm. Just I wanted to understand from an activist perspective, how are they organized? Mm-hmm. How did they manage to beat a country, to beat a state? Yeah. And this was in 2012. I was not living in Ecuador at that time, but I went back in 2014 or 15, mm-hmm. and then I started to research about it, and there was a nice opportunity from the Association Humboldt, from the Goethe-Institut in Ecuador. Mm-hmm. They invited me to take part in a project that had to do with also environmental causes, mm-hmm. and I proposed to start this project in Sarayaku. So they gave me the okay, and then I started to make the contacts to get in. Mm-hmm. This was really funny because I didn't know where to start. So of course there are no telephones in the middle of the jungle. And I started to ask people around, some friends that have been there as journalists, and they gave me a couple of contacts, and nobody was replying to my emails. So I was like, okay, of course, who will reply an email from a random
photographer?
Guy? Yeah, from a photographer.
But from an activist.
Yeah, from an activist. And then I reached to a guy that was working at the communications department in Sarayaku via Facebook. So I just sent him a message, and then he replied 5 minutes later, and he said, yes, of course, you have to send us a letter, an intention letter, stating who you are, who is financing you, and what do you want from us, and also what are you going to give us back. Mm-hmm. And this was really interesting when he said me this, what are you going to give us back? Yeah. He meant not in terms of economical finances or something mm-hmm. like that, mm-hmm. but of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And this was quite a touching moment for me because he said, he explained it this way: you always from the West, from the civilized mm-hmm. world, come to indigenous territories or to the jungle and extract knowledge, be it in the form of medicinal plants or as anthropologists or as mm-hmm. biologists. Mm-hmm. Then you go back to your territory and you gain from this knowledge. Mm-hmm. You either make medicines that later you will sell to us, you patent them, and so on and so forth. So we are a bit tired of this, of course, and we also want some knowledge in exchange.
Yeah, and that's also why they made up this system, like that you officially have to register. I mean, you couldn't go just go there, just travel there. You really had to have the leads first, and then they also ask you these questions right away. But that, of course, is absolutely something that was interesting for you, because you called yourself already an activist in your introduction. So did that then match for you? Or
no, I wasn't expecting that.
Okay.
I was not expecting, to tell you the truth, I was not expecting them to be as organized as they were. And so the Sarayaku government is a government. They have a president, a vice president, the curacas, which are like a council of elders, and the communications department, and so on and so forth. So they were quite bureaucratic even for me. I was not expecting that. So I had to write a proper letter with the backing of the Goethe-Institut, Association Humboldt, and explaining who I was, that I was not a spy for the oil company or something like that. And after that, 1 week later, something like that, they replied. They said, yes, of course you can come. You have to give us something back, of course. And then, we just arranged this logistical detail, because Sarayaku is quite far away from the nearest city. It's about, by plane, you can reach it by half an hour flight, but it's quite expensive and it's a bit dangerous, because some planes have crashed in that area.
Okay.
Yeah. And by boat, you can reach it in about 4 to 6 hours, boat ride.
And how did you go?
The first time I went by boat.
Okay.
I only went 2 times by plane. I was really scared, so I would never do that again.
Okay.
And because these are small planes, they fly below the clouds, and the climate in the Amazon changes really, really quickly. So if it starts to rain, then it's really bad news for the plane.
Okay. So you went by boat. So then I can also imagine that was quite a slow journey, because 4 to 6 hours on a boat. And were you then thinking already about that question? Okay, what am I going to give back?
Yes, of course. I told them that my field of knowledge is photography, is video, is art, and we can do something like that. And the first day when I arrived there, I met Jose Miguel, who was this guy working at the communications department. And he said, listen, we're doing a catalog on local medicinal plants. Would you mind doing the photos of these plants for us, for this catalog? I was like, for sure, of course, for sure. So I just went like one day just photographing these plants. And it was really interesting, because they were explaining me, what does this plant do? What does it cure for? And so on and so forth. So that was like the first time. That was the first thing that I somehow gave back. But then, since I was visiting them over and over again, I don't remember how many times already, we organized workshops workshops in photography for children, because the community has become cyber activists, and they installed internet in their community. So now almost every young guy or young girl have a cell phone, a smartphone. And of course they have cameras in them, and they use, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything. And it was interesting to do this workshop in photography. And then later, together with the communications department, we made an Instagram account only for Sarayaku, which is called Everyday Sarayaku. And the aim was give them a little bit of knowledge in basics of photography, composition, light, in order them to be able to fill this account with other kinds of pictures of their reality. So this was like almost after I finished this project, after I felt I finished this project, because I don't know if it's finished yet. That's another question.
That's for later.
We decided, okay, let's do this. Like you live there. It's more honest if you document your own life. If you tell what you want to tell, and then that's up to you.
And maybe just to go to this installation, because we can see that behind you. Can you explain a little bit, because it's with Polaroids, it's a workshop with children that you did?
Yeah, so I had this idea the first time I arrived there. I was talking, of course, to everybody, and then I talked to children, and straight away I was really amazed that they knew what they were defending. They knew that nature is important. They knew that this is their home. They knew that if the balance in the rainforest is somehow damaged, it will trigger a chain reaction and it will damage everything else. So, and it was really interesting to me that these were really small kids.
Because that is what you are describing, is the idea, the concept of the living forest, as they call it.
This is the philosophy, their their worldview, that everything in the forest is alive, has a spirit, and is interconnected to each other. And so the forest works almost like one being. It's not like several beings, it's just one being. So if in this being one element is damaged, then it will make a chain reaction and it will damage everything else. Other creatures and other living organisms and so on. And then also damage the people that live in it. Of course.
So they also belong in that chain reaction, as you call it. So they're part of the living forest.
Yes, and it was really, really beautiful to hear this, and also that the children already knew this, and they had this knowledge. And so when I came back home, and then I was going the second time, I said, okay, how can I get involved the children in this project? Because for me it was really, really wise what they were telling me. And I decided that perhaps we can do a collaborative work in the terms that I will bring this Polaroid camera, instant pictures. We will decide where to make a portrait of them, and then I will tell them, okay, now can you please interpret your environment for me? Just give them markers and then just go crazy, whatever you want to do.
And that's what they did.
And that's what they did.
Beautiful installation indeed. Hey, there's someone looking over my shoulder here. Because I want to go briefly to the other portraits and pictures that you made for this exhibition, for this project. Can you tell a little bit about this portrait behind me?
Yeah, that's a portrait of Otoniel Gualinga. It was made in 2017 during a celebration called Uyansa Raimi, which translated to English means the celebration of hunting. So this is a festival which men go deep inside the rainforest, deeper than Sarayaku. First they are split in 4 teams. Each team has a leader. And it's a really honor to be elected a leader of a team, so within the community. And then each team goes to different parts of Sarayaku, of this really huge land, and they will hunt there for about 15 days. So they will hunt for the whole community, and men are allowed to go since they are 9 years old. So quite young.
A young age,
a young age. And then, so the men will go there and will fish and hunt for the community. And this is really, really, it's really striking because this festival used to take place every year, once every year. But since they already have seen the impact that the human being is having on all of the other species there, they decided to do it every 3 years.
So we're already adapting to the situation, adapting to the environment.
Yes, because they see that there are less animals, they cannot reproduce, and as they did before, because there's less animals. And of course, Sarayaku has a big territory of 135,000 hectares, which is quite big, but there are other territories as well, and they cannot control what's happening upriver.
The neighboring territories.
And sometimes in upriver you have like an oil extraction facility, and it makes a lot of noise, and the animals flee, and then they don't. You cannot see them in Sarayaku.
In that sense, it also is like, okay, this is what they can do to defend their territory. but I can't influence everything. On the other hand, if I look at the portrait of this wonderful lady here in front of me, it's clear that she's using mobile devices, and of course, like you already told me about the Instagram account, because this community also tries to spread their message via, you already called them cyber activists. So also try to get other people involved to take care of their immediate surroundings, because there's at least some point where one can start. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
So this part was also again really important for me, because it was complementary. They have this ancestral philosophy that everything is interconnected within their world and the jungle. And then they are using the most contemporary means of communications, like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, to spread this message of interconnectedness. And so this was like really, really interesting for me, this mix of things. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Heriberto Walinga there, and he's a movie maker from Sarayaku. And he was telling me, so we do this, we are cyber activists not because out of vanity, we don't want to get known in the whole world because we want to be famous. It's not like that. We want to get known because when you're known, it is harder for the government or for the oil company to disappear you. So this was for me, it's a powerful thing, it's a true thing, and of course they are doing what they are saying. So they have internet there, they have electricity, at least partially, and they communicate to the outside world.
So it's less about maybe that's it has two consequences doing this. First is then indeed like being known, being present indeed, because then it's harder to erase a community, let's say, and to use a landscape for the gain of only small people on this earth. And the other thing is then that they do they actually have an influence on other communities that you know of? I mean, is there kind of network also worldwide? I can imagine. I think they have. Especially in Ecuador, there are other communities that have seen what Sarayaku has achieved via this activism. And of course, some communities already installed internet also in their communities. And so they set an example in that sense.
Also there is an interesting thing in Ecuador. There's a big indigenous movement of women, women indigenous movement. And many of the leaders, they are Quechua also, they come from the rainforest. And one of the leaders is Patricia Walinga, which is from Sarayaku. So there is, of course, this knowledge exchange. And also they have been invited to give talks and to speak about, they even were present at the COP20, I don't remember, the one in Scotland last year. So they were there, they were in Paris speaking this climate issues thing. So they understand that communication is really, really important. And without communications, they cannot survive. So.
And then you because you already positioned yourself as an activist, and you also said that you had to bring something back to them. That was the agreement that you made. So what is the feeling now after? Well, maybe then not finishing the project yet, but what have you brought? What did you bring?
So when I was thinking about how can I help them spread the word, because of course they have a big auditorium, they have a big followers, and I have others that are do not necessarily know each other. So there was this idea that we were speaking with Jose Miguel again, with the communications department guy. And I proposed, okay, so you are already doing this internet activism, cyber activism. I would love to do something not similar, but something that will complement this activism. So one of the quote-unquote products of this project is the secretosarayaku.net website, which is an interactive documentary. It has 6 chapters. It's quite different than this. It's educational and journalistic. There's quite a lot of statistics, text written by the community, by the community of Sarayaku, and text written by journalists and taken from academia. So it was like a mix of knowledge to get to know them a little bit better. And in this way, and of course, like links to their own pages, to the Facebook, to Instagram, so that everything will be connected
again.
So that was one of the main parts of the project. And then of course, the exhibitions, and then the book that have totally different public, a totally different auditorium. So. And in this way, I think it more or less complements each other. Each part of the project can work separately as well as in conjunction. So there are pictures in the So there are pictures in the book that are not in the exhibition or in the web, and vice versa. And there are some elements that are not present in other parts. And they tell more or less the same story, but in a different way. And it was also I know I started as an activist, but then during these 5 or 6 years I have been doing this project, the focus shifted, and it shifted more to a philosophical way of seeing things, about this interconnectedness of forest elements, about how can you see that what cannot be seen, because they have their own deities. They believe there are some beings called Sacharunakuna, or the beings from the forest, that help them to take care of their environment. And this is why I also started to mix not only documentary photography, but other kinds of photography that is more subjective.
And that's what I really like about the exhibition, indeed, that there's a kind of atmosphere here. That's, and we also talked about, should there be captions, should people know where they look at, but it's also, up to your imagination more, and getting little hints about this story. So you just said that you might not be finished. So what is then that you are still looking for or hoping for, or? Yeah.
So the thing is that I have always. So this project taught me a lot while visiting the community and also while working on my own. And one of my thoughts is that we as storytellers or as photographers sometimes think that we finish something and then publish a book, do an exhibition, and then that's it. And
go to the next.
And go to the next. But for me, this is, especially with this project, there is this stage that I am spreading the word. I am, with this activism, with their example, I take every opportunity I have to make a talk, to talk to people about the work, to talk to people about Sarayaku. And this spreading the word has not finished. So
in that sense, you will continue. And then who knows? Also, depending on how things evolve, you feel at a certain moment that you have to go back again. You never know. I could do that. And I know that. In order for this to more or less be finished as I have to spread the word as much as possible, and not just I did this nice exhibition, then I go home and no, I cannot do that. Where has the project been showed? In Ecuador? I know about that.
Yes, it was shown in Ecuador, in Quito and Cuenca, these 2 cities, and also online together with other projects with the Goethe-Institut, and there is an exhibition called online exhibition, Take Me to the River, and the video part of this project is being shown there, and then it's going to be shown in Australia at Photo 22, this festival in Melbourne in May, I think it is, and and in Italy also during the summer. So I'm still trying to.
This is not the last stop of the
it
exhibition.
won't be. Yeah, hopefully not.
Very good. Yeah. I think that's actually a very nice moment to close then our talk, because the story continues. You will continue with the project. Maybe no new photographs, but you will keep on spreading the word of this very special community that I only got to know via you. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.